Thank you, Melvin. First of all, it's an honor that we have the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister here at this very historic occasion. It's not often that we get both the PM and the Deputy Prime Minister to be in the same place or at the Reserve Bank. It's historic. We just completed 50th anniversary for the Reserve Bank in July this year. And for financial year ending July 2024, we made a historic profit, or the largest profit ever, of 135.5 million. Last year, we made a record profit of 102 million. This is the largest so far, so it's not just for the Reserve Bank, but for any financial institution or any government entity for Fiji, so 135.5 million. The total transfer that we're giving to government is 136.2 million, because our Act says that we need to give 1/5 of our revaluation reserve. But just to put things in context, our Act says that we need to finalize the financial accounts 3 months after the end of the financial year. That means we have until end of October to finalize accounts. But I'm pleased to highlight that there was nothing in the management letter. The PwC or external auditors this morning has approved, and the board has approved the financial accounts. And so 6 weeks before the end of the month, or end of the 3 months, we've been able to finalize our financial accounts. What does this mean? By giving this 136 million 6 months before, I'm sure the PS would be very happy to note that this means that the government actually would save somewhere around $750,000 in interest if we had given that money at the end of October. Last year and this year, we've given a combined $240 million. This is around 2% of government's of GDP. So that means if you take into account the debt to GDP ratio, we've reduced it by 2%. Over the last decade, we've given just below $500 million, and since our inception, we've given close to $1 billion. So the government's debt to GDP ratio, had RBF not been giving this profit, would be about 10% higher. RBF is the only institution that has been giving every year its profits to government. And so today is another historical occasion whereby we're giving a total of 136.2 million. Given the media is here and both the PM and the Minister of Finance is here, just briefly on the economy. Our economy grew very strongly last year by 7.5%. This year we expected the economy to slow down to 2.8%, but the more recent data over the last 2 months in particular has shown that the economy is growing slightly better than that. We'll be releasing our revised GDP number in middle of November, and we're now looking at slightly above 3% at this stage. Of course, it can be revised slightly more or less depending on what happens over the next term. So we're looking at slightly above 3% for this year. This means we'll have economic growth for the third consecutive year, and we're also projecting the economy to grow for the next 2 years. So we're looking at 5 years of consecutive economic growth. Our foreign reserves level at the end of the financial year was a record 3.6. And I can tell you that over the last couple of days, we had a number of records. And yesterday was a new record whereby our foreign reserve touched a new high of $3.77 billion. So this is again a historical high. In terms of our financial institutions that we supervise, including the banks, the insurance companies, FNPF and the like, the total assets of all the financial institutions is in excess of $30 billion. So that is our responsibility. I can assure you that all the financial institutions are strong and robust, and we should not be worried about it. Unfortunately, I can't guarantee, Honourable Minister, that we'll have another record profit next year. I said that when we met a year ago that we would not have. But unfortunately, interest rates, in the global financial markets have come down. US have just cut interest rate by 0.5% today. But nonetheless, we'll continue to manage our economy well and manage our performance well, and hopefully it will be another good year. Again, I just want to thank both the Honourable Prime Minister and the Minister for Finance. Thank you.
I want to begin by thanking the Honourable Prime Minister for your presence and for your leadership over the last 18-19 months. As the Governor has said, the role of the Reserve Bank in the management of the economy is very important. It not only looks at managing the monetary policy, which means looking at the foreign reserves, looking at the interest, how that's going to affect the inflation in the economy, but also the Reserve Bank's role in fostering confidence, in analyzing data on a regular basis, the sentiments of the business and consumers. These are important activities and work that the Reserve Bank does in informing the government so that we are able to work out the fiscal policies, the tax policies, the expenditure policies, and so the Reserve Bank and the government, in particular the Ministry of Finance, has to work very closely. Again, I want to say that this is reflective of the work that the governor and his board, very committed team of board members, staff, and the profit that the Reserve Bank is today sharing with the government is reflective of the work that they do. One thing that we have to be very grateful to ourselves and to the work of the Reserve Bank, the board, is that we've managed to keep our interest rate low with the accommodative monetary policy stance, as opposed to what many other countries, our development partners, particularly Australia and New Zealand, where interest rate was very high, and we can see now that even the US is easing its monetary policy and bringing the interest rate down. As the governor said, our foreign reserve is a very good indicator of the health of our financial systems. 3.7 billion is roughly equivalent to about 6 months of import, and that itself has provided a lot of confidence in the economy. One thing I know, that the Reserve Bank produces its annual reports, Honourable Prime Minister, on time, and the audited report, and I think it should be a benchmark for other government entities, and we are encouraging others to produce that on time. Of course, the level of confidence we see in our economy, especially since the approval of the 2024-2025 budget, is very significant. We can see the boost in the confidence, not only in terms of new projects being started, but also the ability of the private sector to see the consistency, the predictability, and the leadership that the government has provided in terms of its economic policy direction. With the launch of the National Development Plan, we are very confident that we would be able to grow the economy faster than what we had predicted initially. Not only in this current financial year, but also in the next one. So once again, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Honourable Prime Minister for being here, and thank the Governor, the Board, and all the staff of the Reserve Bank for such a sterling performance. Now, thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Finance. Any other cabinet ministers is here? No? Waiting. They're always waiting on the other side of the bank. Governor of Reserve Bank and Chair of Reserve Bank Fiji Board, Mr. Rifati. Executive Management, staff of the Reserve Bank of Fiji, ladies and gentlemen. When the Governor said that you celebrated 50 years, I distinctly remember the picture a few days before of, I think it was Father Barnes, who was sliding down to a sloping part of the roof to put a flag up. That's how old I am. Nisambul Vinaka, a very good morning to you all. This must be a very, very high-performing establishment. You never clap. You always expect more than those who are entertaining you or even speaking to you. And that is very hard to, you're very hard to please. So keep going. Someday you'll be happy with your achievement. When you're happy, the whole world, the whole of Fiji will be happy with you. Even now, those of us outside the bank are very, very happy with what you're doing. I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we stand on. I'm fortunate that you are in a very direct line from the leading lights into the harbor to the Jubilee Church. I sat at the Jubilee Church Hall one day and I looked straight out into the harbor and I saw the Reserve Bank Tower. I said, so all the wealth of the world comes into Fiji through this tower. And the prayers before it was started was offered at the Jubilee Church in Turek. If you have time, just go back into the Jubilee Hall, look back over your shoulders, you'll see a very direct line from the middle of the entrance into Suva Harbor through the bank up to the home. And that's always given me some measure of confidence that we have the Reserve Bank properly located to look at all the wealth coming in and to guard against wealth going out. And the traditional owners of the land, the people of Nanton Mai and Turana Tisuva, yesterday when I acknowledged them, I was standing outside the Prime Minister's office and I looked across over my right shoulder and there was the State House, the original home of the Tisuva, originally called still called Naingasingkasini Maramanimbau. Anyone from Bau here? And the Tisuva is known as Turang Narok Tisuva Navaswimbau. One of the earlier Tisuvas married a lady from Bau who was out shell fishing for Kaikoso, and one day she came back. That slope, which is still wet, on climbing up the slope, slipped and crept all the way back to the house. So that hill is known as Naingasingkasini Maramanipau, where the lady from Bau crawled up. So we pay our respect to them, past, present, and emerging. We acknowledge their role in caring for the land, the Vanua we work in and work on, and enjoy our lives in. I'm delighted to be here to officiate the handing over of the profit that you made as Reserve Bank of Fiji to the government of Fiji. The RBF profit since 1990s. I recall during my first time as Prime Minister in the 1990s, when the profit made by central banks stood at the average of $12 million. It's a long time ago, long way up, long way down. 30 years later, I'm pleased to see how far you have progressed and how far we as a nation have progressed, with profit now exceeding 100 million since 2022. Is there another figure earlier than 22?
It's below 100 million.
Or you're just trying to please us? And today we are celebrating a record profit of 136.2 million for this financial year. The growth is not only a reflection of the sound and effective management, and I must say happy management, of the monetary policies of the Reserve Bank of Fiji, but also of Fiji's resilience in economic stability and steady growth over the years. We haven't had easy years. We haven't had comfortable years, but we have grown. Despite the unprecedented challenges that have confronted us in recent years, such as political upheavals, the global financial crisis, or crises, and its aftershocks, natural disasters and the impacts of climate change, and more recently, COVID-19 pandemic. These have tested our economic policies and our strategies. Yet we must acknowledge that our progress highlights the importance of maintaining a strong and independent central bank, one that remains persistent and consistent in its management of monetary policy. I am reminded of the United Kingdom's experience in 1970s and 1980s, when their central bank, the Bank of England, struggled with unclear direction for monetary policy. Various frameworks and policies were attempted, but then discarded. This is because political events influenced the Central Bank of England's interest rates and monetary policies more than the country's economic indicators. The most important contribution central banks make in a developing country is to ensure monetary stability, determined by the country's economic indicators. This is critical for economic growth and development in the country. Foreign reserves, it is clear that the unprecedented profit made this financial year is a result of the bank's prudent investment decisions with the nation's foreign reserves, where it took advantage of prevailing high interest rates in global financial markets. I'm told that as of yesterday, foreign reserve reached a new record of 3.76 billion, covering 6.1 months of Fiji's retained imports of goods and services. Before I conclude, I just want to tell you a story about the war that's going on in Gaza. I was in New York for the UNGA when I got a call from home asking how do we pay for the fares? My wife and one of the girls at home were supposed to come with the pilgrims going to the Middle East for the Feast of Tabernacle. I said to them, please cancel your booking, say you're not coming. They said, why? I said, something will happen on the 7th of October. They asked, what? Something will happen, it will be bad, so do not come. I came back, and on the 7th of October, after the parade in Albert Park, I went and joined the people from my village. We always celebrate the 7th of October, the day I declared Fiji a republic. We were enjoying the first bowl at 6 o'clock in the evening when the world news hit, when events hit the world news to say that war had broken out in Gaza. The 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War in 1973. It also pays for those of you in the banks to be aware of history, aware of what goes on in the world, what might have gone on in the past, and how they could affect our operations and monetary movements and forces in the world. While the Reserve Bank is a central bank and profit is not its primary purpose, it was nonetheless able to record high profit while meeting its statutory role to ensure adequate foreign reserves and stable inflation. Central banks also play an essential role in the regulation and development of the financial sector. The Reserve Bank of Fiji has contributed to various initiatives over the years, most notably the reform of the payment system in Fiji in the last 3 years. On that note, please join me in congratulating the Reserve Bank on its excellent stewardship I want to recognize and acknowledge the leadership of our central bank, the board, the governor, senior management, and all the staff of the Reserve Bank of Fiji for successfully creating the enabling environment for growth. I thank you all for your commitment, and I wish you well for the future. You now will have.